Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Bigger Picture, Huch, Part 2. What we have in Huch's love poetry and in Hölderlin's Der Ister is a representation of a fire or a force that consumes, right? On the one hand, we have this fire representing fervent ethnic nationalists, and on the other hand, right, this passionate heart in this romantic relationship. So I want to talk about white ethnic nationalists first. If we look at the history of Germany, right, in what sense did they want to consume the other? Well, because they didn't want any others within Germany, right? Germans had to be either of the German blood or of the German people. Even to be of the German people, you could only have like one grandparent who was non Germanic genetically. So no others were really allowed to be citizens or to have rights. So you have people working in industry, you have people whose bodies are consumed and destroyed through torture, medical experimentation, uh, various forms of systematic use, exploitation, and extermination of others who were, in many cases, ultimately consumed in fires. Um, so, what we also see for Germany is that not only is this destructive for the lives of these people who were exploited and used and systematically destroyed, but eventually Germany itself ultimately suffered any number of economic losses, loss of life, um, cultural losses, right? The reconciliation with the past after the Second World War is something that really defined the second half of the 20th century for the German-speaking world. Okay, but what we also have in Nietzschean terms is a very weak way of identifying oneself, right? If we talk about Germanic ethnic nationalism, we cannot untie that from anti Semitism. And that right there in the name, it's weak because it's reactive and it's against. The true Übermensch is not somebody who defines themselves by hating on others. The true Übermensch is the one who can transcend these traditional values and affirm themselves as good without using others as a means to measure their own value or their own worth or the meaning of their own life. So, right, that this is the ultimate goal, is to move beyond this kind of reactivity. If we look at existing white ethnic nationalist movements, such as those that are active in this country, the United States of America, you might find for some of them they give lip service to the idea of self-affirmation, celebrating European culture and that ethnic and cultural heritage. But you don't have to dig too far on these websites before you find the reactive stuff. The reaction against what is mislabeled as white genocide, the reaction against race mixing, or the reaction against things like affirmative action, a reaction against anti-racism, right? So there's always this reactivity there at the core of it, which is ultimately very weak. Now going to the romantic dynamic, I think for Nietzsche himself, he did experience a very antagonistic and ultimately toxic romantic relationship with none other than Lou Andreas Salome, who I've mentioned before. She is one of the reasons why Rilke stopped going by René and instead went by Rainier, because it was more manly, and Lou Andreas Salome wanted him to be more manly. So Lou Andreas Salome, right? She had a number of lovers in these elite intellectual circles in the German-speaking world during this era. So she was Nietzsche's primary romantic interest, and she spurned him a number of times. He allegedly proposed marriage a number of times, and she rebuffed him a number of times. Right, Nietzsche himself was not unfamiliar with the idea of a cruel mistress, right? Oftentimes when Nietzsche personifies ideas as women, as we read in the genealogy of morals, right? The idea that a woman wisdom, which is gendered as feminine in German, wisdom is a cruel, like vicious mistress, right? So, again, this is weak, right? That's not really the kind of romantic interpersonal dynamic that creates a healthy foundation for future interactions. Right, so whether we're talking about a toxic political ideology or a toxic romantic relationship, the Nietzschean analysis here in either case is that's weak. It's not really helping to manifest your will to power, either because it's reactive or because it's just unhealthy for you. It doesn't make you feel good, right? Like the Viertel poem, right? They want something more than pleasure, but what they get ultimately is this sort of struggle that they are drawn into against their will. Or in the Huch, right? She's never satisfied. She's never satiated, right? She's never sated. So, yeah, there's never any actual feeling good. Now, again, for Nietzsche, oftentimes when he describes will to power, it is understood in antagonistic terms. So there will be a struggle or some sort of combat. However, right, that's the old way, that's the traditional way. The Übermensch transcends beyond that. The great hereafter that Nietzsche wants to look forward to is not a heavenly divine realm. What he wants to look forward to is a state of grace where people can just be themselves and be healthy and strong and powerful without engaged in toxic power struggles with the other. I hope this helped. I hope everybody is safe and healthy. I am back here with my plants and our boy Prince. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you next week.